Hello and welcome to another Bodgit and Leggit video. Now today we have behind us a 2007 Toyota Corolla 1.4 petrol and we have the engine light on. Now I plugged this in a few weeks ago and what comes up is a P0420, which is a CAT problem, so a CAT inefficiency problem. Now this is only a 4-cylinder, so this is a 420. If you've got a V8, you get a 420 or a 430 or both. They're the same thing, just different banks. Anyway, what I do is, whenever a car comes in, I quickly plug this scan tool in, which is my Foxwell scan tool. It's just 'cause it's really quick and easy. And what I do with problems like this is, I tell the customer, I give him some cleaner, some special CAT cleaner, put it through the petrol and let him drive for a few days just to see if it will clean the problem, because the next stage is very expensive and it's always worth, for the sake of the bottles, like 10 quid, it's worth putting in and just seeing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you get a couple more years out of it, all well and good. If not, then you have to replace it. I always like to try that first, just to try and save the customer money, because like I said, the next stage is very, very expensive. So what I'm going to do is, we're going to run through on the scan tool. I'm going to put the bigger scan tool on now, because like I said, I just quickly use this. And we can actually see very quickly through the 202 sensors what our CAT is doing, whether it's working or not working. And you don't really need an expensive scan tool for this. This will do it. It's just this screen is very small, and to try and get it on camera is quite difficult. I have seen some even cheap programs that work on laptops. As long as you can see the O2 data, you can do this very simply. You don't need to spend a fortune on scan tools. So we're going to see how this works, but what we have to do first is we have to heat this up. So we have to leave this run until it gets properly heated up, because the O2s and the CATs have to be like at 600 odd degrees for them to kind of work properly, well, the O2s, for them to kind of work properly. If it's below that, they're not going to work at all, so you're going to get false readings. So we're going to let this tick over, let it heat up, turn on the bigger machine, and let's see what we've got. Sorted. One thing I did forget to mention, before continuing with the diagnostics we're going to do, you need to make sure the car is running smooth. So what I mean is, there's no misfire codes, the car is running, it's starting, it's not hard to start, it's not missing, it's not spluttering, it's not doing any of that. This car, apart from the engine light, is running absolutely 100%. It drives down the road lovely, it starts, it does absolutely everything it needs to do. It's just that the engine light is on. That is important, because if you've got missing, if the engine is missing, coil pack's gone, problems with the injectors, you have to sort that out before you go looking at the CAT, because they could be related. So just make sure your engine is 100% fine before you kind of go with the way we're going, because if you just look at the scan data we're going to look at, if you've got other problems, it could mislead you. So make sure that is done first. What we are going to do before we actually get stuck into it, we're just going to go on the old computer, and I'm just going to kind of draw everything out, and essentially what does what and why the car is telling us this problem, and essentially how everything works. After we've done that, we will get stuck into this beast of a four-banger. Right, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to quickly go through how the CAT works and what the 202 sensors actually do. Essentially what happens is, you've got hydrocarbons in the catalytic converter. When the O2 from the engine comes into the catalytic converter, so when the O2 comes from the engine into the catalytic converter, it then converts it to CO2 and H2O. And it needs the O2 coming in from the engine for it to actually work, and it also needs the right temperature for it to work. And then what happens is, when the CAT is actually working properly, all that should be burnt up internally into the CAT. So all the O2 should be used internally in the CAT to make this reaction happen, which makes then the second O2 sensor, which is here, it makes that happy, it makes the car run happy, and it makes all the nice leaves and trees and birds and the bees happy, because the catalytic is working properly. So that is essentially how it works. It really is that simple. Right. So what we need to do now is we need to look at the two O2 sensors and look at the data so we know when it's good or bad. We have the first O2 sensor. So when this is coming just before the cat, and what we want to see on a good O2 sensor on the upstream or the sensor 1 is a nice waveform kind of going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and that is the computer running rich and lean, rich and lean, rich and lean, rich and lean. You're looking for around about 100 millivolts at the bottom to around about 900 millivolts to the top, and that's what gets you your wave. If you've got a problem here, well then, like I said, you're going to have to look at that before you look at the actual cat. If you've got problems with your O2 sensors, don't blame the cat, because it's completely separate. So your second O2 sensor, for that to be working, if like on our cat we had a mirror image, so we essentially had our second O2 mirror imaging what we saw on the first one. This means all the O2 is going straight through the cat. It's not getting burnt up internally, it's just essentially going straight through the cat. So there's no magic happening inside the cat. So the cat is essentially kaput. It really is as simple as that. So what you're looking for is a nice wave on your front O2 sensor. So we'll just put this as O2 sensor 1, and approximately 100 millivolts to 900 millivolts. And then our second sensor, what we are looking for is more or less a flat line within reason. It can kind of bubble up and down, but the line is essentially flat and it's fairly high voltage. Then you know that internally in this cat, all the O2 is being burnt up, and the second sensor cannot read the O2 coming out of it, because that's how the car knows there's a problem. It doesn't, there's nothing connected to the cat, but the second O2 sensor here, it knows if there's O2 coming out of it, and that's all its job is just to figure out if there's O2 coming out. If there is, it then flags up the code on the computer, the engine light comes on, and it's game over. You have to start looking at things to replace it. So that really is essentially how it works. You will see on the next part, you'll actually see the live data that we actually got from the car, and you'll see the before and after essentially. That really is it. I will go into maybe another video on O2 sensors, but that really is, it's kind of straightforward. Right, so there you go. There's the code, a P0420 code, which is efficiency bank 1, a catalytic problem. That's the code. Now let's look at the scan data. Right, so I've just put on a slight rev, and as you can see, they are fairly close, matching each other, which obviously shouldn't be happening. It's just going up and down all over the shop. You'll see the difference once we've actually repaired it, but as you can see, that's now just zoomed out, so that doesn't look as bad. But it's more or less echoing what the other one is doing, which just means the catalytic converter is just absolutely doing nothing. So we're going to replace it. We will then look at the data afterwards, and we'll compare them. Sorted. And you can just see the cat really isn't doing anything. They do over here, and I think they do the same in the UK, when they actually test the catalytic converter on a car like this, they will rev it to around 2,500 revs, and that's when we see if it's working or not. I'm not sure how it is in other parts of the world, but around here, and I'm pretty much certain in the UK, that's how they actually test the car. So you do need to give it a slight rev just to see, because if you don't rev it and you think it's okay, when it comes to the test, they will rev it and you will get the true reading. So this is what you have to do over here. That's what I'm doing. You can see I've just got something wedged on the pedal at the minute. That's what I'm doing. So that's how you do it. So what we're going to do now is I'll just take a screenshot of this just for the hell of it. Why not? There we go, done. And let's get the cat in. Right, so you can see how it shouldn't be. We're going to now put the new one in, and the reason, unfortunately, this one is really expensive is because you get the manifold with it. There is some of these, the same year, same engine, who has the cat in the middle of the exhaust. That's a hell of a lot cheaper. This is not a genuine cat. We priced them up both, and genuine one was just ridiculous. So we went with this one. But by the time this one fails, I don't know if the car's going to be really worth really doing anything more with it. It's a hell of a lot cheaper than the original one. And I normally would say replace 202 sensors once you're doing the cat as well, because again, even though they're working fine, they're old, they could fail down the line. But again, I would only put genuine ones in this. And funnily enough, the genuine ones are the same price for both of them. And the spurious ones are two different prices, and they're more expensive. Now, I don't know, doesn't make sense. I would get genuine sensors anyway. But with the price of this and the other bits that we've done on this car, this is the way he wanted to go. I don't blame him, so this is what we're doing. We're going to get a new gasket here and a new gasket there. I'm going to struggle to actually show you fitting this because there's just no room. I'll get you underneath to kind of show you as best I can, but I'm going to kind of struggle showing you how to fit this. Once we've got it fitted, we'll then look back on the scan data and we'll see what we should be seeing. Must be a ghost over there. See what we should be seeing, and we'll go from there really. And the car should be fixed. But yes, that's what we're replacing. Expensive little git, but that's just the way it is sometimes, unfortunately. Now, as you can see, this is where it is down there, and there's just no way I can get the camera. There's a heat shield there. The other problem is, because we've warmed up the engine, this is going to be bloody hot. So we have to be careful there we don't break anything or burn ourselves. There is the first O2 sensor. Just see it clips in, and the other one is further underneath. One thing you do want to make sure, so there's no exhaust leaks or anything like that. If there's an exhaust leak after the second sensor, well then that's not going to make any difference at all. If there's a really big exhaust leak somewhere before the two sensors, well then, or in between the two sensors, should I say, that can make a difference. So, but it has to be kind of big for it to make a difference, to be fair. But we know the cat is gone. We can get an idea from the new one that there's only 6 bolts, and I say only 6 bolts, that sounds so simple. These are our bolts, or our screw holes for the heat shield. This is our first O2 sensor. Then we just got more connections, obviously, where it bolts into the car, and this is where it connects to the rest of the exhaust. So I'm not going to be able to film most of this, cannot see, but we'll get it on the lift, we'll show you underneath, and then I'm going to burn myself to try and get the rest of the bolts off. Lovely. I'm going to show you this in a second, but as you can see, there's 2 14mm bolts there, which just stop the exhaust from actually cracking. It's like a support bracket from underneath. Then you've got the heat shields. Then as you come underneath, we have our second sensor, and then we have the rest of the exhaust down there. And up in here, we have where the where the exhaust actually joins, as you can see just there. Now, I have seen cars with the O2 sensor a lot further back, and technically, I suppose you could always cut this out and put like a spurious cat in. I've seen people to do it, but you just need to make sure everything's okay. But we're doing it properly, but there you go. Now, I do get a lot of grief from people saying, you know, you're using expensive tools, you're doing this. I've often used 3 or 4 different ratchets on the same job. As you can see, this is a straight ratchet, and it goes up on this one, no problem. But I can't get it in this one because the angle's wrong. Even if I try and go in here and get it up, the angle is still completely wrong. So I can't get anything in. But as you can see, I've got this one, and you can see the shape of it actually allows me to get that in and straight and undo the bolts. So much easier. So it is good to have different size, shapes, lengths, ratchets for all sorts of different reasons. So we're going to undo these 2 bolts, try and undo the 6 on the manifold, and I really don't know how I'm going to get this out because there doesn't seem to be a lot of room. I might have to drop the subframe. Hopefully I don't, but I don't think we're going to have enough room to get it out from the top, but we shall find out shortly. Right, finally we've got it out, and what a nightmare. Couple of the bolts broke inside the manifold. Nothing I could do, just one of them things. The O2 sensor is just completely and utterly seized on there, cannot get it off. Hopefully I'll be able to get it off. This is the purest one and the genuine one. You can see the difference. The genuine one does have a slightly bigger cat. Now, whether it just angles differently, I'm not sure, but it does look bigger, but doesn't necessarily mean it is. As you can see, the manifolds are actually completely different, the way they're designed. But this one is a hell of, and we're not talking a little bit, we're talking a hell of a lot cheaper. So that's just the way he went. I need to get that O2 sensor off, but I'm just struggling, and I think I might break it if I carry on. So I'm going to have to try and heat it up. Just don't know yet. We'll see what we can do with that. But new gasket here, as you can see, for the exhaust. We've got a new gasket for the manifold as well. Wait for the bolts to come in, bang it in, turn the old computer on and see what the old waveforms look like. The joys. Right, unfortunately could not get that O2 sensor out, and it's damaged from me trying to get it out, so I had to replace it. Replaced it with a new one, a genuine one. And there you go, there's the part number for them along playing at home. Just the way it goes. I had a nightmare because the heat shield where they mount, as you can see, there's bolts and nuts and all sorts sticking all over the place. Obviously didn't match up with the new one. Can't really see, but so I had to do a lot of messing around. I also had to take off the actual engine mount, push the engine towards the front of the car to actually get the cat out. But it's out, just started it. I need to let this heat up. Once it has heated up, we'll check the data, turn off the engine light, and job done. Right, sorry about the glare, but we're heating up now, and we can even see a difference. We're not fully up to temperature, so kind of ignore this, but you can see a difference. They're not doing the same thing like there was before. We have a nice up and down, rich and lean from the front O2 sensor. But that's a brand new sensor, and we still have our original one here. Once the car starts heating up, you will see what we want to see is a nice up and down movement like we are seeing here, and more or less within reason like a flat line, but a high voltage flat line on this one. That means that the rear sensor isn't detecting O2. That's essentially what it does, or it's designed to do, and that's what, well, that's it, just let that fall. That was a good catch. So that's what it's there to do, and that's what throws the light on. So what we're going to do is let this heat up a bit more. We're still not up to temperature yet. Then we'll put it on the rev we need, and we'll have a look at our data. But already we are looking a million times better. Now that's around 2,500 revs, and as you can see, when I initially revved it, that's what we had there, but don't worry about that. We can see a nice oscillation here, up and down, and we've got kind of a flat line on the second one at high voltage. Again, it's still not up to fully working temperature, but we're not that far away. So what I'll do is I'll just let this heat up a bit more and turn the camera back on, just so it's at full working temperature. But as you can see, already we are a million times better looking than what we was before. Right, car is now warmed up. It's on tick over, and as you can see, absolutely bang on. I did try and put a temperature gauge up here, but then it brings the sensor one to the far side, and it's just a bit confusing. So I just left it like this. But we are up to temperature. Fans just kicked in. And there we go, sorted, job done. We will go and come out of here, clear the code. So let's just say no first. Let's go back in just so you can see the code, even though I'm sure I've already shown it. There we go. We'll now clear the code. So clear code's engine must be off, switch the ignition on. Are you sure? Okay, well, let's just turn the engine off. Engine's off, key on. Oh, sorry about the glare. There we go. There we go. done. The light has gone off and stayed off, but that means nothing at the minute. The car might smell a bit funny also with a new cat. Don't worry about that. I got to take this for a good drive now, get this cat really hot, and just to see exactly if the light will come on and what happens. It shouldn't do. The data speaks for itself, but you never know. I think it's actually, oh no. Yeah, that's still okay. Maybe gone slightly below the heat threshold. Oh no, it's kind of going up there now. Because these do only work at a certain temperature, so you can't really test these cold, like I said before. But there we go. I'm going to take this for a drive now. See exactly what's going on, and but that should be it. Right, so that's it, fixed. Give this back to the customer for a couple of days. It does take a few days for the cat to kind of start working properly. I have seen in the past where you put a brand new cat in and it goes for the test within a couple of days and they have failed. Not all the time, but I've seen a few. So bear that in mind. I always try and say to the person, leave it a couple of weeks before the test. I know sometimes you maybe can't do that. It's just that's what I've seen a few times, so there you go. But it's done, no light on yet, giving it a really good drive, still ticking over here behind me, no light. So at the minute, fixed, just have to wait and see, and that's it. So yeah, look, must be an old leak in my roof. But anyway, look, I hope it helps. Thumbs up, subscribe, all the usual, you know, links down below, links up here. Most importantly, don't forget, get your hands dirty. See you for the next one.